We are live on Clutch Talk Sports Radio, live on YouTube. Yes, we are live currently streaming on YouTube for the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. Didn't get a chance to do a show earlier this afternoon, so we are live currently streaming on YouTube. So you can go to our YouTube channel right now. Obviously, you can go to the YouTube channel because you're on it right now if you're watching. But you can see it on Twitter, Facebook. You can see us streaming live. My name is Kevin Gray, host of the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show of the Sports Radio America Network. Thank you to all those joining us live this evening. We're doing these a little more often these days. We're just going to do some live streaming on YouTube. We're doing some different things, trying to get some things worked out. And I appreciate you sticking and staying with us late night this evening. It's been a long day across the entire sporting landscape. I appreciate you taking the time with me. Hopefully you can all hear us out there. If you want to join in on the conversation, the phone number is 469 608-1640. We established a Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show YouTube phone line. So if you want to get in on the conversation, it is 469-608-1640. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Antonio Brown situation, previewing a little bit of the preseason weekend NFL action. Got some UFC action this weekend, a big, huge weekend in wrestling, actually. The G1 final for New Japan Pro Wrestling. You've got SummerSlam this weekend out in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So a huge weekend of pro wrestling again. If you want to get on the conversation, the phone number is 469-608-1640. Again, we just established this number tonight. So if you want to get in on the conversation, you can definitely do so by giving that number a call. Again, 469-608-1640. Again, we are normally live every Monday and Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sports Radio America Network. We were off today, weren't able to do a live show, so I wanted to make sure I got on, talked a little bit about what's been going on throughout the day, including this whole Antonio Brown mess. So Antonio Brown wants his regular helmet that he normally wears. He's threatening to quit the game of football altogether. He's already dealing with a really weird foot problem due to some cryotherapy that he messed with and dealt with. So now his feet are like burned off through frostbite from the cryotherapy. So all kinds of a mess going on with Antonio Brown right now. So again, thank you to those joining us live. Again, if you want to get on the conversation, the phone number is 469-608-1640. 469-608-1640. Talking a little bit about the Antonio Brown situation. So here's the thing with this whole Antonio Brown situation, right? He gets traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers, goes to the Oakland Raiders. He's a member of the Oakland Raiders. They give him a record deal as the newest wide receiver for this football team. He parachutes in on a hot air balloon into Napa, California to get ready for training camp. And next thing you know, he has a mishap with the cryotherapy chamber, gets frostbite. Justin Gatlin went on TMZ and talked about the fact that Antonio Brown could be out for months due to this. If you've seen the pictures on all over the internet with his feet and how bad they look, he's not really able to stand and run routes and do the kinds of things that Antonio Brown is accustomed to doing, obviously. So you have that situation. Then all of a sudden today, Michael Silver puts out information, Adam Schefter puts out a bunch of information about how Antonio Brown's been complaining all training camp long about the fact that he can't wear his normal helmet that he normally does, the helmet that he's worn for a long time. If you know about the rules as far as the NFL is concerned, the NFL mandates certain helmets can be worn by players. They test a bunch of helmets throughout the offseason to allow players the opportunity to wear approved helmets in the NFL. The one that Antonio Brown apparently has been wearing throughout his career is no longer approved by the NFL, and he tried a new helmet, worked with it, was doing okay with it, tried to go back to the old helmet. The Oakland Raiders were like, nah, you can't use that helmet. And then he put back on the new helmet, worked with it okay, still wants to use the old helmet though. And now apparently it's come to a head to the point where he's threatening to quit the game of football altogether if he can't wear the same helmet that he's accustomed to wearing with respect to the NFL. Look, here's the problem with this whole Antonio Brown situation, okay? Antonio Brown now has put himself in a position where he's making the Pittsburgh Steelers look good. All of the 52 kids comments that Ben Roethlisberger made and some of the issues that Antonio Brown had with the Pittsburgh Steelers, now all of a sudden the Pittsburgh Steelers look good in this situation because of all the melodrama that Antonio Brown has brought as far as the situation is concerned. And look, drama for the Raiders is par for the course. They're on Hard Knocks. This is an organization that has been dealing with drama for a really, really long time. So this is par for the course for the Oakland Raiders. But at the same time, this is a really important season for Oakland. John Gruden already disappointed in the fact that Antonio Brown isn't in camp, not quote-unquote getting the party started for the Oakland Raiders to get him and Derek Carr on the same page as they move toward a very important season, their final season, of course, out in Oakland before they transition to Las Vegas and start playing their football out in Las Vegas, Nevada. So for a guy in Antonio Brown, look, you didn't want any distractions. He's already a big enough distraction as it is just being himself on a day-to-day. Now you add the distraction with your feet messed up from the cryotherapy chamber. Now you got yourself in a situation where you're complaining over a helmet, the fact that you can't wear the helmet that you're accustomed to wearing. This is so ridiculous. And again, if you want to get on the conversation, the phone number is 469-608-1640. That's 469-608-1640 if you want to get on the conversation. We want you to weigh in on this Antonio Brown situation. Is Antonio Brown doing too much? Are the Oakland Raiders doing too much? What do you feel like is going on with Antonio Brown and this Oakland Raiders situation? But again, Antonio Brown has never been one for a lack of drama, and now you have this situation on top of what it was already going to be a very important season for him and the Raiders. So now you got to deal with this going forward if you're John Gruden. Look, this Hard Knocks stuff, this Richie Incognito stuff, all the stuff that's already coming with the Oakland Raiders, now to add Antonio Brown onto all of this with his, and look, more importantly, the helmet issue, okay, whatever. The more important issue is, when is Antonio Brown's feet going to be able to be ready for him to get back on the football field? Because ultimately, Antonio Brown's not going to quit playing the game of football. He just got a bunch of money, $50 million guaranteed, from the Oakland Raiders. He's not quitting the game of football. I would be shocked. I would be completely shocked if Antonio Brown actually quit playing the game of football over a helmet. Like, that's exactly what we're talking about here. If Antonio Brown quits the game of football over a helmet, he could just go ahead and go away, because at this point, that drama isn't worth it. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're looking at this situation like, yeah, we tried to tell you guys that Antonio Brown was a bit of a drama queen and a drama king, whatever you want to call him. And now the Oakland Raiders are finding out firsthand what Antonio Brown has been bringing as far as the situation is concerned. So just a real mess of a situation with respect to Antonio Brown. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he's put himself in the position. Look, all you have to do is simply wear some footwear, get in the cryotherapy chamber. All things are good. Now he's got to figure out what helmet he wants to wear. I don't think he's going to quit over a helmet. He's walking away from too much money for him to simply quit over a helmet. So again, if you want to get on the conversation, 469-608-1640. We've got NFL preseason action coming up this weekend, including the Dallas Cowboys taking on the San Francisco 49ers in their opening preseason matchup. Obviously, a lot is taking place right now with respect to Ezekiel Elliott still holding out. If you want to check out that video that I did yesterday, you can go to, obviously you can look at it on our YouTube channel. I did a whole thing on Ezekiel Elliott talking about why I believe he should continue to hold out. Yes, I believe he should continue to hold out. There's no reason for him to get 300 touches over the next 2 seasons for a combined $13 million and not get a new contract that he's due, I believe, from the Dallas Cowboys. So look, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, all these guys are going to get paid, right? At some point. Ezekiel Elliott decided to take matters into his own hands and take control of his situation and said, you know what, look, I'm going to be the guy that puts himself in position to get my money now, and I want it now. So I don't fault Ezekiel Elliott. I was going back and forth with somebody earlier today about the fact that Ezekiel Elliott is holding out and why he's continuing to hold out. Here's the thing. Ezekiel Elliott could be in a position where the collective bargaining agreement, of course, could be up at the end of this 100th NFL season. So for a guy in Ezekiel Elliott, getting his guaranteed money now, getting as much money now as he can is really important to him, not just for the simple fact of that potentially is a looming factor with the collective bargaining agreement. The idea that he could be in a position to be the highest paid running back in the NFL, because he deserves to be the highest paid running back in the NFL. So again, if you want to get on the conversation, 469-608-1640. Ezekiel Elliott deserves to be the highest paid running back in the NFL. Would have been a rushing champion all three of his first 3 seasons if Roger Goodell doesn't suspend him for 6 games in the first during the 2017 NFL season. We know that's a fact. Also, if a guy, sorry about that, a little bit of clipping there on the microphone there. Hope we got that straightened out for you. But Ezekiel Elliott is a guy that, again, would have been the NFL rushing champion 3 years in a row if Roger Goodell doesn't suspend him for 6 games in 2017. He's one of the best running backs catching the ball out of the backfield, one of the best blocking backs in the NFL. He does everything that you would want a running back to do. He does the job of 3 different running backs, and he does it all by himself. He's the proverbial straw that stirs the drink for the Dallas Cowboys. So you've got to get him into camp. You've got to get him on the field. Look, Ezekiel Elliott didn't play a single preseason game last year. He was just fine, led the league in rushing again. So if he's not on the field during the preseason, no problem, no big deal. The only concern if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan is the idea that Kellen Moore obviously is the offensive coordinator, and you want to see what he brings to the table with the Dallas Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott. So without him being there, obviously you don't get a chance to see what kind of play calling Kellen Moore can do. You usually keep it pretty vanilla anyway, especially in the first couple of preseason games. It's usually in that third preseason game where you start to show a little bit for these teams. So we'll see. Ezekiel Elliott not on the field. Cowboys still trying to get something done with him. Obviously, Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper are going to be guys that need to get paid next also. So there's that. But at the same time, again, when you look at the preseason matchups this weekend, obviously you've got games that are taking place with the Dallas Cowboys, obviously taking on the San Francisco 49ers in preseason action this weekend. Obviously, you have other matchups, including tonight. You've got matchups with the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. You've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, those teams get into action this weekend. As we take a look at some of the action that's going to be taking place this weekend across the NFL as far as week 1 of the preseason is concerned. On Saturday, you've got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Oakland Raiders, as we've talked about a little bit about the Oakland Raiders already, and of course the Dallas Cowboys, as I mentioned, taking on the San Francisco 49ers. So the NFL preseason is here. Week 1 of the preseason is going to be taking place, obviously with games already in the books that took place on Thursday night. A little bit of recap from last night. So Daniel Jones, right, 5 for 5, 67 yards, a touchdown in his first preseason action for the New York Football Giants as they got a 31-22 win over the New York Football Jets. So look, this whole offseason has been about Daniel Jones and Eli Manning. Is there now a QB controversy with respect to Eli Manning and Daniel Jones? Let me answer that question for you. No, there was not a QB controversy. Look, Daniel Jones was playing against the Jets. The Jets are nothing to call home about with respect to defense so far. So, look, if you're a guy and Daniel Jones, yes, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You came out there, you played well, you put some pressure on Eli Manning. Eli Manning is going to be the starter going into this season. So, no harm, no foul with respect to the New York Football Giants. But you are encouraged by what you saw from Daniel Jones. Obviously, a top 10 pick out of Duke, a guy who had some accuracy concerns, and a guy who looked to be an Eli Manning light potentially, now has an opportunity to build upon a very strong performance that he had in his very first NFL game against the New York Football Jets. So give credit to Daniel Jones for coming out and performing and doing what he had to do in his first matchup. In his matchup against the New York Football Jets. Now, again, is there a QB controversy with respect to what's going on in New York as far as the QB situation is concerned? No, it's not. And let somebody know that, yes, we are live right now, actually. So, again, if you want to get on the conversation, 469-608-1640. That's 469-608-1640 if you want to get in on the conversation. Talking a little bit about preseason week 1 of the National Football League. Daniel Jones, 5 for 5, 67 yards, a touchdown in his first performance for the New York Football Giants. A guy who performed also, another rookie quarterback, Kyler Murray, looked really good last night against the Los Angeles Chargers. Played really well, went 4 for 4 on his opening drive. Looked good. What I loved about what Kyler Murray did, got the ball out quickly, was able to show a very quick release, very athletic within the pocket, and put himself in position where he was throwing the football very well down the field. So for a guy, Kyler Murray, obviously Cliff Kingsbury failing upward, getting the head coaching job for the Arizona Cardinals, now steps in with the prized possession of Kyler Murray at the quarterback position, and he looked good. Got to give him credit. He looked good in his first preseason game against the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm not ready to anoint him as the MVP or anything like that, but at the same time, you're encouraged. Look, When you get into these first preseason games, especially for these rookie quarterbacks, whether it be a guy in Daniel Jones, whether it be a guy in Kyler Murray, you want to see them handle the moment. Kyler Murray handled the moment well. Daniel Jones handled the moment well. Obviously, as the games continue to speed up and they start to see much more game action as far as first team defenses are concerned and those kinds of things, we'll see how they continue to handle the pressure. But you give Daniel Jones and Kyler Murray credit for being able to handle the situation the way that they did. Came out, performed well, and put themselves in position to really give their teams encouragement about what they're seeing so far early on in the preseason. So again, if you want to get on the conversation, 469-608-1640, talking preseason week 1 of the National Football League. Other scores and other things around the NFL from last night: the Denver Broncos getting a 22, or Seattle Seahawks getting a 22-14 win over the Denver Broncos. Your man Paxton Lynch got a little bit of revenge against his former team, as he is one of the backup quarterbacks for the Seattle Seahawks. We mentioned back to the Arizona Cardinal Los Angeles Chargers game. A guy who we have had a chance, especially if you follow the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show, out earlier this year in Los Angeles, California at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, covered that, was out there, did shows out there all weekend. And a guy that stood out all weekend was a guy in West Hills out of Slippery Rock. A guy who didn't get drafted, but at the same time is on the Arizona Cardinals, scored his very first touchdown. The guy is a very powerful runner and put himself in position to score a touchdown, looked really good. So shout out to Wes Hills, who was the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl MVP earlier this year, scored a touchdown for the Arizona Cardinals last night in their win over the Los Angeles Chargers. So again, if you want to get on the conversation, 469-608-1604. My name is Kevin Gray, host of the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. We are doing a YouTube live stream currently right now on Clutch Talk Sports Radio live on our YouTube channel. So again, you can go to our YouTube channel. We are currently live streaming right now. You can see everything. If you want to follow us all over social media, you can do so on Twitter at CET Sports Radio, also on Facebook at facebook.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio. And you can also visit our website, clutchtalksportsradio.com. Again, you can go to clutchtalksportsradio.com, and you can also follow us there. So again, we are live doing a YouTube live show currently right now for the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. Again, my name is Kevin Gray, host of Clutch Talk Sports Radio. So going into this weekend, obviously some new action. We're going to see the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Oakland Raiders. I'm really interested to see if Todd Gurley gets on the football field, how Sean McVay and this team look against the Oakland Raiders. Obviously, John Gruden and the drama that has surrounded everything that has gone on with the Oakland Raiders, to see how they look in their first preseason matchup. Something that as we switch gears a little bit, obviously the preseason week 1 NFL action is going to be dominating the headlines as far as this weekend is concerned. But something that I hadn't had a chance to talk about a little bit, this whole Rich Paul thing. So, of course, earlier this week, Rich Paul was in the news, not necessarily because he did anything. The NCAA instituted the quote-unquote Rich Paul rule, which says basically that anyone who wants to represent somebody who's potentially going into the NBA draft process, they have to have a college degree. Now, of course, Rich Paul, who's one of the most powerful agents in the NBA currently as the leader of Clutch Sports. Looks like we got a comment in the chat room. Mo Cheese, what's going on, man? Was just wondering how you felt about this rule. Yeah, so obviously it's look, this is an assault obviously on Rich Paul and what he's done. The ironic nature of the NCAA and wanting to have folks have a college degree. Now, they put out a statement talking about the reason why they want folks to have a college degree when trying to represent these players is because they value the idea of someone getting a degree. Now, that's very ironic because a lot of these folks, as far as the NCAA is concerned, it doesn't matter necessarily if you have a degree. We've seen plenty of people in all walks of life be able to be successful without having a college degree. But more importantly, on the side of Rich Paul, Rich Paul's got these folks scared. LeBron James tweeted support of it. David Aldridge tweeted support of it, and talking about how the NCAA is scared of what Rich Paul is doing. Rich Paul has put himself in a position where he is showing folks, look, you don't have to have a college degree, but more importantly, the NCAA is all about control. And they're trying to regain control over a system that has seen players really start to take control of their own situations, where we talk about the transfer rule and the transfer portal, guys looking to find ways to make sure they maximize their opportunities to be able to get leverage to go play somewhere if they feel like they're not being able to have the opportunity to play. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second, with respect to your man Dabo Swinney and Kelly Bryant. I got some thoughts on that particular situation too, with respect to Kelly Bryant and your man Dabo Swinney. But at the same time, Rich Paul has got these folks shook, and shook for good reason. Chris Broussard even took it to another level, said that the rule in and of itself is racist. Now, what the NCAA has always fashioned themselves in is the ability to control the narrative. They do not want players, they do not want individuals exercising the kind of autonomy that allows them to make the best decisions possible for them without the NCAA bringing up the kind of consent that allows them to do what they do. Melvin, what's up, man? Good to see you here in our YouTube stream right now on Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live. Appreciate you guys tuning in on CT Sports Radio Live right here on YouTube. So the NCAA is always continue to try and fashion themselves as a league, as a organization that exercises control over the student athlete. These student athletes live and breathe like professional athletes, whether it be practicing, whether it be going to class, whatever the case may be. These athletes live and breathe as professional athletes, whether it be on the baseball field, the basketball court, the football field, whatever the case may be. College football is about to start here in the next few weeks, obviously, you know, with teams like Georgia and Clemson and all these teams looking to vie for a national championship. So look, Rich Paul has put himself in a position with Clutch Sports to be one of the most foremost agents in the NBA today. The fact that he has put himself in this space without a college degree, the fact that he's put himself in the space where, look, anybody can be an agent, but not everybody can be an agent. Rich Paul is in the latter. Rich Paul knows how to develop relationships. He's cultivated relationships. Yes, put on by LeBron, but at the same time, Rich Paul has worked extremely hard. If you go read and go watch and learn about Rich Paul is a very smart man, a businessman of the highest order. So he has put himself in a position where he knows what he's doing here. Yeah, it's 469. Let me get that number back up so you guys can, if you want to get in on the conversation, you can do so. It is 469, and I'll put it in here too so you guys can see it. 469 608 1640. Yeah, if you guys want to get on the conversation, you can give us a call, 469-608-1640, and you guys can weigh in on the conversation also. Want to hear your thoughts about what's going on with the NCAA and Rich Paul, how you guys feel about it. But again, Rich Paul has put himself in a space where he's a very smart individual, very business savvy individual. So this rule isn't necessarily coming, I don't think necessarily coming at Rich Paul himself. It's coming at the future Rich Pauls. It's coming at the future individuals who may want to do some of the same things, but may not necessarily have the qualifications, quote unquote, on paper to do the same things that Rich Paul is doing. And that's what the NCAA is trying to prevent. It's ironic that they're trying to prevent guys that don't have college degrees from doing the same things that guys who go to professional sports leagues, they don't have college degrees. Most folks, once they leave the college ranks, don't necessarily come back and get their degree anyway. So the idea that they can't be successful without a college degree is ironic, given the fact that the NCAA is trying to require folks to have a college degree to represent athletes who go on and leave school without a degree. It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, this is the narrative that Rich Paul has been able to create, the control, the power in what the NCAA is trying to curb as far as the future Rich Paul. So that's kind of what's going on here. Look, these players are demonstrating that they understand the game and the business of college athletics, the big business that's college athletics. But more importantly, the NCAA has tried to put themselves in a position where they're trying to reestablish some of the control that they feel like they've lost. Obviously, you saw the big FBI scandal, all the things with players getting paid under the table. There's been a lot that college basketball has been dealing with over the last several months. The Commission on College Basketball has been dealing with that also. Let's see, we got our first call in. Let's see if we can get on the line here. Let's see if we can get Mo Cheese on the line here. Give me just a second, working this out real quick. Oh, I think we might have lost it. We'll get him back on the line here. Let me see if we'll get him back on the line here in just a second here. Begin if you want to get on the conversation. Let's see here. And we're working it out right here on the line here. Let me make sure I got everything set up because we should have it all. Hang on. Anyway, as we get that up and running here. Give me just a second. Let me see if we can get you on here again. This is Kevin Graham, the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. We're trying to see if we can get Mo Cheese. Are you in there? Hang on just a second. Let me see if we can get you in here because I definitely want to see if we can get you. No, can't hear you just yet. We're getting you worked in though. Give me just a second here. Because we want to make sure that we can hear you. Give me just a second. Again, this is the joys of doing this stuff live, is trying to get this stuff figured out. Let me see here. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can reestablish you here. Give me just a second. Are you in there, Mo? I think maybe.
Yep. Can you hear me?
There we go. Now we got you.
Okay.
Let me see if everybody can hear you out there. I think everybody can hear you. Can you guys hear Mo Cheese out there? Let me know if you can in the chat room. If you guys can hear him, just let me know and by putting it in there in the chat room. Mo, what's up, man? Go ahead.
Not much, man. Just wanted to jump in real quick. You were talking about, well, you had a couple things, and I don't want to spoil anything. I might have to commit radio sin and call back in later, depending on that you bring up. But
Yeah.
the NCAA rule, I wanted to ask you a question. And I don't want to even peel back the onion layers that we could peel back in regards to how many successful people don't have a bachelor's, how many successful people haven't even been to high school. But I will ask this question. How many successful people have honorary degrees from universities, and who's going to be the university that gives Rich Paul his honorary doctorate degree that allows him to supersede having a bachelor's degree and allow him to work into this practice?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I believe he does have an honorary degree. I think it's from Cleveland State. I think he got it from. I could be wrong, but I think he's got an honorary degree already. So I'm not sure if he's going to be receiving an honorary, doctorate degree at some point. But I believe he does have an honorary degree from a university. So there's that part of it also with respect to Rich Paul. Not a formal degree necessarily, that he's necessarily earned, but he does have an honorary degree. Like I said, I think it's from Cleveland. So I have to check. You have to check me on that, but I think that's where it's from.
I mean, and I bring up that point, and just to shed a little bit of light, you have professors such as KRS-One is a professor.
Mm-hmm.
You have Snoop was a professor at one point. Common was teaching a class, I want to say at Yale at one point, or it may still be, but you have different artists that teach classes, and they have been given honorary doctorates to be able to teach these classes. I would think that a honorary doctorate would supersede any of these rules, number one. And then it's just funny. And you look at the structure of a couple of things that are going to happen. Again, not to get into the totality of it, but think about Duke next year, man. Duke next year will have LeBron and D Wade's sons both playing for them.
Yeah, that's true. They'll be out there at what is it, Sierra Canyon High School out there out in California. So Dwayne Wade and LeBron James' sons getting down with one another, and I think they got another top high school recruit that's considering going to North Carolina or something like that. So it's just crazy to me that. Look, the NCAA, as we were talking about, likes to control the narrative, right? They want to keep themselves in position where they're in control and demonstrating the control. And one of the ways that they can do that is, you know what? We see the game that Rich Paul is playing, the power and control game, more importantly, the relationships that he's been able to build, not only as the leader of Clutch Sports and obviously with LeBron James, but he's bringing on other guys. We're talking about a Draymond Green who just got a 4-year, $100 million contract extension from the Golden State Warriors. Rich Paul has put himself in position where he's surrounding himself with the individuals that are going to be major players for years to come with respect to his agency. He just moved. He's got a new sports division as far as his agency is concerned with another, major entertainment agency. So Rich Paul is making moves, and the NCAA recognizes, look, we've seen these guys make decisions as far as these athletes are concerned about what they want to do, how they want to control their careers. They tried to curb some of the ideas of how kids can transfer with the transfer portal and getting, waivers to be able to transfer to other places, because at one point guys were willy-nilly kind of just transferring based on, loose circumstances and situations. So the NCAA tried to tighten that up. But when you treat these athletes like they are professional athletes, whether it be in games, the television contracts, the massive money that's out there for big business for the NCAA, you're treating these athletes like they are professional athletes. So they should have the control. They should have the autonomy to do what they want to do. And when they go and test the NBA draft process, they should have the autonomy to choose who they want to represent them. And if it means it's a guy or a girl who hasn't earned a college degree, but at the same time is a successful agent in his or her right, that's exactly who they should be able to choose. The NCAA talks out of both sides of its neck when it comes to an issue like this. On the one hand, they are promoting, they are showing college athletes who make no money but yet make millions of dollars off their back, but at the same time try to convince us and preach to us, oh, you need to get a college degree. We want you represented by individuals. And look, from the basis of the NCAA, what they're trying to show is that, look, we are in a position to help these kids make the best decisions possible and be represented by the most qualified individuals possible. That doesn't necessarily mean that the qualified individual has a degree. That's never meant that, especially in today's age where a lot of folks can get to a lot of different avenues without necessarily having a college degree. So I think it's a
let me
yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I want to hear your response, and I want to ask a question. I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna listen to your response. I want to go back and watch you.
Yeah.
Why are specific rules, specific wording, and criteria being put in for specific sports where these aren't necessarily the rules and criteria for other sports, such as baseball, soccer, tennis, golf, lacrosse?
Yeah.
Like when you think about some of these other sports and then you boil it back down to college football, college basketball, there seems to be a difference in how they're handled and how professionalism is handled in those two sports. Even with track has far more leniency with professionalism when it comes to collegiate athletes than the major sports of football and basketball. And my opinion is, I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna listen, but my particular opinion and thinking is this comes down to control, which comes down to money, and which ultimately comes down to the percentage of people that are one skin color versus another skin color that are playing sports, and why are there such certain differences between these sports when we know that the differences on the opposite side bring in so much more money?
Yeah.
It's a simple answer.
Yeah, no, I completely get it and understand the point. Mochis, I appreciate the phone call, man. And joining us here on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show live here on YouTube. Yeah, look, these kinds of rules aren't in place for, tennis. These kinds of rules aren't in place for, baseball. Look, guys can be signed to professional contracts in Major League Baseball at 16, 17 years old and become professional athletes. There's a power element, a control element, and to a degree, a race element with respect to the way the NCAA is going about its business with respect to this rule in Rich Paul. You don't see this happening in hockey, soccer. You don't see it happening here. Look, the labor that is being, look, most of the labor in the NBA is black. 75% of the labor in the NBA is black. We all know that. The amount of labor in the NCAA predominantly is black when you look at college football and college basketball. The NCAA is big business, and any way that they can control the power, the narrative, and control the resources that are coming in and out of the NCAA with respect to college basketball, with respect to college football, they're going to try and do it. And they said that a lot of this stuff, as far as the recommendations that you saw with these rule changes, stem from the commission, on basketball that was led by Condoleezza Rice, which stemmed from the FBI investigation that took place with the NCAA and many folks getting arrested, folks like Chuck Person and Book Richardson and all these folks getting in trouble because they were, getting paid and all this other stuff. So the NCAA has never addressed the true issue of what's going on here. How does an organization exercise this kind of control over labor that doesn't get paid a single dime for the work that they put in on the college football field, basketball court, or baseball field, whatever the case may be, yet still make millions upon billions of dollars off of these kids' back, and yet at the same time still try to push the idea of amateurism when the rules and the way that they comport themselves scream big business. This is all this is: control, power, and who wields and controls that power, and the perception of who wields and controls that power. The NCAA is watching Rich Paul take over in the NBA. Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, whomever may come in the future behind those guys, and look for representation there. The kid Hampton, I think, is represented by Rich Paul and all the things that are going. There's a lot of layers here, but most importantly, the NCAA wants to try and exercise control of the narrative. And guess what? They're not going to be able to do it, because more so than anything, this will embolden individuals to not only go and get degrees, this will embolden individuals to seek ways around it, which means you're still going to have the Rich Pauls of the world find loopholes and find ways to get in there to be able to help represent these kids. And again, this goes back to the kid. Whoever the kid feels like they can trust to represent the best interests of themselves when going through this NBA draft process. Because again, the kid can go into the draft process, decide that he doesn't want to necessarily come into the NBA and go back to college, and then, obviously continue their college career. But if they want to sign an agent in that pre-draft process and they feel like somebody who may not necessarily have a college degree is the most qualified to handle them, then that's the decision that they should be allowed to make. The NCAA should not be in control of that particular decision, especially if a kid decides to go ahead and come out anyway. So the NCAA trying to control every aspect of a college athlete's decision making, at least in this particular standpoint, to me is wrong. And any way that folks have, a lot of ways that folks have reacted to this, they've been really strong about this. And obviously, it should be the same way. So, again, sorry about that. A little music coming in there. But yes, but Mochis, I appreciate the phone call, man. Again, if you want to get on the conversation, the phone number is 469-608-1640. That's 469-608-1640. My name is Kevin Gray, host of the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. We are live normally every Monday and Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sports Radio America Network. We are live currently streaming on YouTube right now. You can go to clutchtalksportsradio.com. You can go to @CT Sports Radio on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to be able to catch our live stream, currently streaming on YouTube. So, Mochis, I appreciate the phone call. Again, if you want to get on the conversation, it's 469-608-1640, 469-608-1640. So, again, wanted to get that off my chest because I hadn't had a chance to talk about that situation all week with respect to Rich Paul and what has been going on with the NCAA. Again, LeBron James coming out in strong support of it. Obviously, other individuals coming out very strongly against what the NCAA has put out as far as what they want to see representatives potentially have as far as a college degree is concerned. And the pushback has been real, and you're going to continue to see the pushback with respect to a rule like this because honestly, it's uncalled for and it's unreasonable, and there's no reason for the NCAA to feel like they need to put themselves in position to have such rule like this with respect to having a college degree in order to represent an athlete. There's plenty of individuals who are qualified in a lot of different areas to be able to represent athletes, and Rich Paul has proven that you don't necessarily have to have a degree to do it. And he's got one of the most powerful clients, obviously, in the world in one, LeBron James, and has brought in others, Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, and others. So this is just the beginning, and folks might want to get on board with what they're going to continue to see, because this isn't going to change anytime soon with respect to these guys. So, there's that. Again, if you want to get in on the conversation, the phone number 469-608-1640. Thank you to everyone joining us live currently on YouTube for the Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live Show ahead of a huge weekend across the entire sporting landscape. A lot of pro wrestling. If you're a pro wrestling fan, it's a huge weekend for you. A lot of UFC action this weekend. Valentina Shevchenko defending her championship this weekend against Liz Carmouche in a championship fight in the UFC this weekend. Preseason NFL action. Again, preseason NFL action getting started all over the NFL. Talked a little bit about it earlier. We saw Daniel Jones get in his first action against the New York Football Jets for the New York Giants. You saw Kyler Murray looked really good, I thought. Got the ball out quick, looked good in the pocket. Didn't look like the moment was too big for him. Kyler Murray, of course, the Heisman Trophy winner from last year from Oklahoma, doing his thing. You got college football coming up here in the next few weeks. And speaking of college football, Dabo Swinney was in the news earlier this week. And by the way, congratulations, Doug Stewart, on the X Squad affiliate network. So glad to see Doug Stewart joining the X Squad. He did a little bit of an expose on this himself. So Kelly Bryant, who is the new starting quarterback for my Missouri Tigers, actually in the SEC East this year. Dabo Swinney, of course, the Clemson Tigers winning a national championship last year, going 15-0 behind your man Trevor Lawrence, and a dominant defense that absolutely dismantled the Alabama Crimson Tide in the national championship game. Dabo Swinney was in the news because Kelly Bryant, who started and won the first 4 games for the Clemson Tigers last year, Dabo Swinney said he wasn't going to give him a ring and didn't give him a ring because he wasn't a part of the team, which I found to be really kind of petty and ridiculous. Dabo Swinney is a lot of things. Petty and ridiculous is starting to become one of the things he's known for. Look, Kelly Bryant was a guy, 16-2 as a starter, patiently waited his turn for years behind Deshaun Watson. Of course, Deshaun Watson, the star quarterback for the Houston Texans now. Kelly Bryant patiently waited his turn, waited for an opportunity, played in a national championship in a college football playoff, and was one of the driving factors and one of the major leaders for Clemson as far as their championship runs were concerned over the last few years. Obviously, Kelly Bryant was benched in favor of Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, the decision to start Trevor Lawrence over Kelly Bryant proved to work out rather nicely for the Clemson Tigers. But for Kelly Bryant to not receive a ring from Dabo Swinney because Dabo Swinney felt he, quote-unquote, basically quit on the team, to me is ridiculous, and it's petty, and it's silly. Dabo can give Kelly Bryant a ring. It's just like, look, there are plenty of guys who don't play at all during a regular season and wind up winning a championship. There's plenty of guys who spend half a season with the team and don't play a single game, or spend all of a season with the team and don't win and play in a single game, and they get a championship ring. Jeremy Lin, case in point for the Toronto Raptors this past year, hardly played, if at all, for the Toronto Raptors. Guess what? He got a championship ring. Guys in Major League Baseball who don't play at all, or whatever the case may be, to me, it was silly and ridiculous. Look, Dabo Swinney has been look, he's got 93 million reasons why now he can do and feel like whatever he wants to do at Clemson. He's the highest paid coach in college football, got that 10-year, $93 million deal. And honestly, he's earned it. When you go beat up on Alabama and win a couple of national championships, defeating Alabama, put Clemson on, look, Clemson and Alabama are going to be doing this for years. I want everybody to settle in. I know Mo Cheese is still listening. I know Georgia tries to get in there and do their thing. Look, Georgia's not going to be doing their thing because Alabama and Clemson are going to be playing in a national championship game probably for years to come. But at the same time, Clemson doesn't rebuild; they just reload now. That is the sheer power of a Clemson and Alabama. Clemson and Alabama are at the point where they don't rebuild. Their second 11 is better than most starting 11s on either side of the football in the country. That's what Clemson is now. That's what Alabama has been, obviously, under Nick Saban. And for Clemson, you give all that credit to Dabo Swinney and what he's been able to build there. So credit is due where credit is due with respect to Dabo Swinney and Clemson. This is just stupid, and it's silly, and it's petty. Kelly Bryant, good for him for taking the high road on this situation, starting quarterback for my Missouri Tigers this year out in the SEC East as they look to the throne. Mo Cheese's Georgia Bulldogs out there in the SEC East got to contend with Florida. Florida's going to be doing their thing this year with Felipe Franks and Dan Mullen, obviously doing their thing out there. But Dabo Swinney, come on, dude. Really? You're going to keep Kelly Bryant from having a ring because you feel like he quit on the football team? Look, you benched him. Just say you felt like Trevor Lawrence was going to be the better player and you wanted to start him, and you did. No harm, no foul. If you felt like Kelly Bryant didn't give you the best opportunity to win, you did what you had to do. But don't not give him a ring because, he didn't feel like he quit on the football team. It's just petty and ridiculous. So not sure why your man Dabo Swinney felt like he needed to do that. But at the same time, you know what? It is what it is. And, Dabo Swinney did what he did. And here we are. I hope they get that thing worked out because it's silly. It's petty. It's ridiculous. I hope they get that thing worked out to where your man Kelly Bryant can get himself a championship ring, because he earned it. He earned it as far as that concerned. So, big season of college football coming up here in the next few weeks. Over the next several weeks, obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about college football. Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma, Kelly Bryant at Missouri, Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers looking to defend their national championship. Obviously, Justin Fields out there at the Ohio State University, Ryan Day taking over for Urban Meyer, obviously. Georgia and Kirby Smart, they're doing their thing. A lot of great teams looking to put themselves in position to try and challenge Clemson and Alabama for the throne of the best in college football. So that'll be starting here in the next couple of weeks. Again, if you want to get in on the conversation, the phone number is 469-608-1640. That's 469-608-1640. Thank you to everybody joining us live right here on YouTube for Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live. Again, wasn't able to do a live show earlier this afternoon. We are normally live every Monday and Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sports Radio America Network, which is available on TuneIn. You can see that behind me, TuneIn. So you go to the TuneIn app, or you can go to sportsradioamerica.com, lock that in as a favorite for Sports Radio America if you're searching it on TuneIn, and then listen every Monday and Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, thank you to everyone joining us in Microwave. Good to see you here in our YouTube. Look, I'm getting my platforms confused. Our YouTube live chat room. If you want to get on the conversation, 469-608-1640. Microwave is a huge Philadelphia Eagle fan. They're dealing with some backup QB issues. If I did see that correctly, I think your man Nate Sudfeld is out with a broken bone somewhere. But Microwave and I will be talking a lot of trash during the season. I'm a Cowboys guy. Look, if you don't know anything too much about me, some of the things that you'll know about me, I'm a huge WWE fan. I am a huge Cowboy fan. I'm a huge Yankee fan. My Yankees, winners of 9 straight doing their thing. We still need some starting pitching, but at the same time, winners of 9 straight baseball games. I felt really old today. Who said that? Clutch doing TV. What? Oh, Melvin said, "What's up, Fish? Clutch doing TV. Very proud." Yeah, appreciate that, Melvin. Thank you. Trying to explain. Look, we're part of what's called the X Squad affiliate podcast or X Squad Radio Network. Excuse me, X Squad Radio Network. So go to xsquadaffiliates.com and you can find out everything about the X Squad affiliates. Clutch Talk Sports Radio is also very proud to be a part of that organization. Our fearless leader and CEO, Kesey Ingram, does a tremendous job with the X Squad Radio Network. Microwave Fisher is a part of that. Cooking with the Microwave, you got Mo Cheese, Fish and Grits, you got everything over there also. So it looks like we got a call coming in. Let's see if we can get the call in.
Call from. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
I think we got Microwave on the line. Microwave, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
What's up, man? Appreciate you joining in on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio YouTube live show. What's going on, my man?
Nothing much, man. What's going on, brother? You doing big things, man.
We're trying to work it out, man. We're trying to do some different things, trying to do some things on some different platforms, and this is one way that we're trying to expand. So hopefully we can kind of set the pace and get everybody else on you. Kesey's been doing his thing with his live stream stuff on Facebook. So I said, I need to hop on the train and figure this thing out myself. So here we are.
I hear you. Speaking of working out, since you brought it up,
I did bring it up. Yes.
Are you guys going to work out these contract situations?
Look, man, I said it earlier. If you go check out my video I put up yesterday, I don't mind Zeke holding out. I'm completely fine with Zeke holding out. Look, the guy, if he wasn't suspended those 6 games in 2017 when the Cowboys went 3-3, it probably would have been in the playoffs. If he was in the lineup, he would have been a rushing champion 3 years in a row. He's one of the best pass catching backs out of the backfield, one of the best blocking backs in the NFL. He sets the tone on the offensive end. And Stephen Jones even said it himself earlier this spring. He's the proverbial straw that stirs the drink for this Dallas Cowboy football team, especially offensively. So if Zeke feels like he doesn't want to get another 300 touches put on him to the tune of $3 million and then another 300 touches put on him next year to the tune of $9 million, I don't have a problem with it. Zeke didn't play in any preseason games last year. No big deal. Won a division championship. If he doesn't play any in this preseason, no harm, no foul. As long as he's on the field week 1 against the New York Football Giants, that is all that I care about. So if Zeke feels like he needs to hold out to go get his money, I'm right there with you, Zeke. I'm a player's guy. I don't know about you. I think you're a player's guy too. I'm a player's guy. If a guy feels like he needs to go get his money and he's not willing to get another 300 touches put on him and be run into the ground for another season for only $3 million, I got no problem with it. None whatsoever.
Yeah, I've always been and always will be a player's guy. So I have, especially as an Eagles fan, I have no problem with Zeke taking the stance that he's taking. However, the problem is the Joneses. And, it came to a point, in my opinion, my humble opinion, it came to a point to where we felt like Stephen Jones was being the one, to calm down Jerry and not make him make rash decisions. But now we have Stephen Jones coming out publicly and making statements that he's going to have to live by, i.e., he says last year after Gurley started his deal, Ezekiel Elliott's deal starts where Todd Gurley's is. Mm-hmm. And then now after Le'Veon Bell, had to take less money, now he's saying that, the market's been reset where Le'Veon is. So I'm hearing, I don't know how true it is. You're the insider over there with Dallas, with all things Dallas. So, but I'm hearing it's about not per season, but I think it's about a $10 million gap in between where Zeke wants to be and what they're willing to do. So I think this is going to maybe play out into the regular. I mean, I hope it plays out into the regular season. It just so happens that Dallas has 2 games they can probably win without Zeke, which would give them the leverage. And the thing about it is, Ezekiel Elliott not playing this season doesn't give him an extra year of eligibility.
Correct.
Like he's still going to be on the contract for the same 2 seasons, and then the Cowboys will still be able to trade him or whatever. So I mean, they're at a stalemate, and in the game of chess, man, you got 15 moves apiece, or is it 12 or 15 moves apiece, and And other than that, after that, the game's going to be over.
And you make the point, and Zeke obviously has made a conscious decision. He doesn't care that he's not going to have another year toward free agency. I think he feels like the Dallas Cowboys home is where he wants to be for the duration of his career. So I think that's part of the reason behind his holdout is that he doesn't, I don't think, necessarily foresee himself playing with another team. And, Jerry and Stephen Jones have kind of put themselves, as you mentioned, painting themselves into a corner. Stephen Jones was the one that came out earlier this spring that said, Zeke is the one that stirs his drink for this football team, especially offensively. Then Jerry Jones comes behind that, kind of backtracks off of that in terms of where the floor is for Zeke's contract. You got a guy in Todd Gurley making about $14-15 million, and you got a guy in Le'Veon Bell. And Stephen Jones talked about that earlier this week, that with 32 NFL teams, no draft picks attached, the market was set as far as Le'Veon Bell was concerned at $13.5 million. So, Stephen Jones using the terminology, quote unquote, the Cowboys were very, quote unquote, generous, with their offer. I don't necessarily like that terminology, especially when you're talking about a guy who's been the bell cow for this franchise and the amount of attempts that he's continued to put on his body year after year. So I don't like the terminology that Stephen Jones is using. So at the same time, the Cowboys feel like they need to do something from a business standpoint, which is put themselves in position to make sure that they're paying Dak Prescott, make sure that they're paying Amari Cooper, looking toward the future with guys like Byron Jones, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, and others. Zeke is not worried about that, and nor should he be, especially at a premium, especially at a position where a lot of guys don't necessarily get paid. I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that if the Dallas Cowboys win, let's say their first two games against Washington and against New York in their first couple of weeks, that the Cowboys have the leverage. To me, look, whether the Cowboys go 2-0, 1-1, 3-0, 4-1, however many games Zeke decides to miss, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Cowboys are better without Ezekiel Elliott in the lineup. When he was out those 6 games in 2017, they went 3-3. If they go 4-2, 5-1 with him being in the lineup, they're in the playoffs that season. So even though the Cowboys have a schedule those first couple of games where they should win those two even without Ezekiel Elliott, they're playing a first place schedule this year. It's not like they're playing a very easy schedule with respect to who they've got on the schedule this year. So if Zeke has a protracted holdout where we're talking about 8, 9, 10 games, this could get much more tenuous for the Cowboys as the season goes on. And if you're Jerry and if you're Stephen Jones in a win-now situation with a quarterback in Dak Prescott who you've decided to believe in, when you trade for Amari Cooper and give away a number 1 overall pick, you are showing the value that you believe Amari Cooper has, and you saw him prove that last year during the second half of the season. And Ezekiel Elliott, when you draft a guy as a running back at the number 4 draft pick, as the Cowboys did in 2016, you've told us what you value as far as him being a running back, and you value him being one of the best running backs in the NFL, which he's been obviously during his time with the Cowboys. So this is on the Cowboys to get this figured out. And for Zeke Elliott to do what he has to do to get paid, no problem. I understand what the Cowboys are trying to do. I think they're wrong in this situation, and I think they need to get Ezekiel Elliott paid for what he's worth, and he's worth being paid as the highest paid running back in the NFL. He should reset the market, in my opinion, as far as running backs are concerned.
Now, I agree. However, looking at it from a business standpoint and looking at it from the Cowboys standpoint, even though I shouldn't, he was just in Commissioner Goodell's office, maybe a month or so ago, or a little over a month ago, and Zeke is kind of like one infraction away from possibly missing a whole season of football. So the Cowboys have to take that. He hasn't done himself any favors. And then there's so many adages when you just look at this situation. So many old adages. Well, if you knew better, you do better, and you got to feed your horses. But the main one, when it comes to Dallas and Ezekiel Elliott, is, hey man, I got to be able to trust you to do right. You know what I mean? Like if I pay you, and I reset the market with you, and for whatever reason you happen to get in a situation where Commissioner Goodell suspends you for a whole year, even if we get that rescinded down to 10 games, that's a pretty much, for what we know of Dallas and how much the offense runs through Ezekiel Elliott, that's pretty much you can call it a wasted season. And now, what I wanted to ask you though, Kev, do you think this stalemate with Ezekiel Elliott is a ploy to make Dak Prescott take less money? Because if Ezekiel Elliott, let's say, and I believe, I'm not 100% sure, you have to correct me, I believe he probably has to play at least like half the season in order to get credit. So let's just say Ezekiel Elliott's prepared to hold out until week 8. And in this 8-week span, Dak Prescott doesn't have a deal. However, he showed up to camp. So in this 8-week span, if you guys go, 3-5, well, then they're not necessarily going to pay Dak the $30 million that he's probably warranted as of right today.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that holding out on Zeke is a ploy to see how much you really need to be paying Dak Prescott?
I don't think so. I think Jerry and Steven are operating from the standpoint on each of these guys as an individual entity. They're valuing and looking at what Dak is going to make based on what the market is dictating. They're doing the same with Amari Cooper, doing the same with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think that Steven and Jerry are playing Dak off of, Amari, or Amari off of Dak, or Dak off of Zeke. I think they're treating each one of them individually based on their contract situations and looking to pay them based on what their market value dictates and based on the value that they bring to the franchise. So I don't think this is an attempt by Ezekiel Elliott to try and prove that Dak isn't worth, the money that they're going to pay. I think the Cowboys are going to pay Dak based on the body of work that he's put together over the first 3 seasons of his career. And Zeke is looking at it from his standpoint. I've proven my worth in these first 3 seasons. I'm the league leader in the NFL in terms of average yards per game throughout my first 3 seasons in the NFL. I'm averaging nearly 100 yards a game every time I step onto the football field, in my first 3 seasons. He's proven his worth, and I think Zeke believes in his value, irrespective of Dak's value, irrespective of Amari Cooper. And honestly, from Ezekiel Elliott's standpoint, he could say to Dak, he could say to Amari, he could say to the entire Cowboys offensively, especially the way they build their offense, I'm the reason why Dak's going to get $30 million. I'm the reason why Amari Cooper is going to be in position to get the money, that he gets. Zeke could really and theoretically walk into Jerry and Stephen Jones' office and look, I'm the reason why this thing is happening. And if I'm Ezekiel Elliott and I'm going into their office looking to negotiate my new contract and become the highest paid running back in the NFL, character issues aren't necessarily a concern. Here's why. The Dallas Cowboys have operated for years and years and years with questionable characters. You go back to the heyday of the Dallas Cowboys, Michael Irvin, Deion Sanders, some of the other guys, the characters in that locker room, the Leon Letts of the world, the Nate Newtons of the world, whomever you want to do, whoever you want to slot in there. There's been a lot of guys that have had some questionable character issues. The Dallas Cowboys.
What's my man that played for San Francisco? They used to pee on people's feet.
Yeah, Charles Haley. Like, come on.
Charles Haley. Yeah, there you go.
Like, and then you fast forwarded to today. The Dallas Cowboys signed Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy came with all the baggage in the world. So I don't want to hear.
You remember when Jerry had to hire personal security for Dez Bryant too?
Exactly. So I don't want to hear the Cowboys try to use Zeke's whatever questionable characteristics that you want to have as quote unquote leverage against him when you've proven in the past that you're willing to bring in questionable characters on this football team to try and, help the football team be better. So if I'm Ezekiel Elliott, I laugh at that. If they say, well, Ezekiel, we've got questions about some of the decisions that you've made, based on the past, man, bump that. You've brought in Greg Hardy. You've had other guys in the past. So character concerns to me are a bunk issue with respect to Ezekiel Elliott. The question is simple. Is Ezekiel Elliott worth being paid the highest paid running back in the NFL, or at least in the top 5? The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. He needs to be number 1.
Yeah.
And I got to run, but let me ask you one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe him when he says he's not going to play football without a new deal?
I do, because he's in a situation where I think he can afford to hold out. Well, folks say, well, Kevin, he's only made a certain amount of money and he may blow through, his money. I think Zeke is a very smart individual. Yes, he's made questionable decisions at times, but he's got good people around him. Zeke knows what he's doing, and he saw what happened with Le'Veon Bell. And here's the big part about this. If Ezekiel Elliott does sit out this year, it's another year that can be added on potentially at the back end where he saved himself for a year. Look how Le'Veon Bell has looked and been rejuvenated based on him missing last year. We'll see how that carries into the regular season, obviously. But at least from a mindset standpoint, Le'Veon Bell looks more rejuvenated than ever. And I would expect the same for Ezekiel Elliott. Well, they say Kevin on the back end, Zeke holding out with 2 years left on his deal is a bad idea because the Cowboys, in effect, have control over him for the next 4 years. We don't know that because the collective bargaining agreement is probably going to be severed at the end of this year. So who knows what a new collective bargaining agreement is going to look like and if there are going to be games played in 2020 to begin with. So for Zeke, the time is now to get your money, especially trying to get as much guaranteed money as possible, because honestly, his value won't be any higher than it is right now based on the projection that he's already produced. So with that being in mind for Zeke, yeah, you hold out and do what you got to do. And I appreciate Microwave jumping on the line on the clutch. Oh, you still there? Are you thinking? I think you still there. Yeah, you still there.
I'm still here.
Yeah, you still there. Yeah.
But I agree with you, man. Well, there's only one way Zeke's value gets any higher, and that's if he decides to go and suit up week one and Dallas wins the Super Bowl. But I'm definitely not rooting for that.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, I appreciate this time, Kev, man. Get back to your show. You're doing big things, big dog.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the time. And that is John, the Microwave Fisher, good enough to join us here on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio YouTube live show. I'm about to get off of here. My wife is probably looking for me like, what am I doing? It's time for me to get off. But I appreciate all of you guys joining me on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live here on YouTube. This video will be available a little bit later on into the weekend, so you can take a look at it. And we are back live, and we're going to be able to stream this live. The way that you're hearing it and seeing it right now, you'll be able to see this live on Monday. So I'm really excited about the fact that you'll be able to hear our guest interviews. You'll be able to hear everything that you see and heard tonight. You'll be able to hear that on a regular moving forward for the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show, live on TuneIn Radio and the TuneIn app on Sports Radio America. So go to sportsradioamerica.com. You can find Clutch Talk Sports Radio live there. You can also find us on the X Squad Radio Network at xsquadaffiliates.com. So again, thank you to all those who join us live on our YouTube show. Visit us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at CT Sports Radio, ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com. My name is Kevin Gray, host of the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. On our YouTube live show, we are out. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you Monday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sports Radio America Network. Have a great evening.